So if we can't see your comment, we don't know if you are with us. For all we care, we might as well just be talking to ourselves, you know. You don't know. So, Adora, good evening once more. And thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining us today. Every month we choose a particular sector to focus on in the community. So last month for us was selling October. This month is legal November. I'm not sure what December is going to be. Maybe it's going to be party. Maybe it's going to be
party after
November,
party.
Party December, party after party, you know. So maybe that's what December is going to be. Who knows? It will be a good way to end what a wonderful year 2020 has been.
Yes.
Such an interesting year for everyone. So as part of Legal November this month, we've been discussing, last week we discussed structure, you know, and it was quite an eye-opener. We discussed business structures, and people, you know, started seeing, excuse me, people started seeing, you know, quite a few mistakes that they were making in how they're structuring their business. And that brought us to, you know, issues like vesting and the rest of them. And we discovered that a lot of people actually wanted to learn, hear more about, you know, team building and, you know, co-founding and all of that stuff. And so thankfully it was already on our schedule. And that's why I reached out to you. And I'm happy that you obliged and you're here today. For those of you that don't know Adora, Adora is the founder. She's no longer the CEO. Adora, you told me you're no longer the CEO. So she has built the business and she's stepping aside now. She's now the director. She's now the director of, She's now the director of Kendor Consulting and one of the biggest HR, human resource businesses out there. If you can't hear me, don't worry. If my network broke a bit, don't worry.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest human resource consulting firms out there. So Adora, welcome to Startup South.
Thank you, welcome. Let me put on my light because I can't see myself. You know, we're still with this, you still have this.
Yeah. Sorry, let me also stop sharing so that your video can be bigger.
Yeah. Yep. Right, so I can position myself now. Yes, exactly. I felt a bit
that's great.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Uche. So nice to be here. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so thank you. Thank you very much for
So Adora, you want to just Yes, go ahead. Just take I'm just gonna let you take like 5-10 minutes and talk a bit about, you know, about team building. I know that this is your field, but I like us to have a conversation, right? So just take like 10 minutes and talk about team building and, you know, start from, because most of the people going to be listening to this are startup founders. And essentially some of them are actually looking to start, right? So let's talk about co-founding, team building, and then we'll have conversations. There are quite a lot of questions I want to ask you. And I'm very sure that people also have questions. So,
yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. So, you know, like when I saw the topic, I was like, you know, it's a good one to have. You said the last session was on structure, and like this really flows from that last session, even though I wasn't part of it, but I can only imagine what was, covered in that last session. So thank you very much for that introduction. And so today we'll be talking about team building, which, to be honest, I don't know what you spoke about last time, but definitely I think I must reference structure. Okay, so a few things I want to say, and I'm sure like quite a number of people who are starting businesses know this already. But one thing I will say is that it all starts with where you're going, or where you see or what the vision of your firm is. I mean, so many people are so privileged. I look at what people are doing in the industry right now, and they're so privileged because some of us didn't start like that. We started, because, we were good at what we were doing, and people, we started getting work, and we just, created businesses, and we just started. And obviously, if I could go back, I would I would do things differently, because I now understand that the business is an entity that is quite separate from a person. But a lot of us started as the person. So some people are founders now, and they are the person starting the business. The business is them, and they are the business, And one of the most difficult things to do is actually build a team. I was having this conversation with the CEO. Business is a team sport. Self-employment is not. Some people still struggle with the difference between self-employed and running a business. If you're doing all the work, and the business is based on your work and what you do, then you're really self-employed. You created a job for yourself. Now, a business is a separate entity in that it's quite separate from you, the person. And the structure for a business to survive is very different from the structure of a self-employed person. A self-employed person, the business ends with you. When you're not in the mood, you don't work, you don't earn. If you run a business, then a business is an entity on its own. That's why it's called corporate. It's a body. It's different. And there are parts of a body, like, just like a corporate, a person has their arms, a leg. A business, in order to survive, has its own parts. And if those parts are not there, it will not. And part of those parts is actually the team itself. And these are some of the things that a lot of us struggle, even myself, for those of us who did not start as a business proper. Our businesses are still evolving, and some of us are still suffering from the initial fact that it did not start as a corporate body per se. So what I would say about team building is, I think every co-founder, founder, or any business person knows that it's not easy, because business is a team sport. You need people in positions. There is no business that does not need a mix of different people with different competencies. Of course, you always have a leader of every team. You must have operations, because your business is designed to do a particular type of thing, or engage in a particular business activity. You are selling. Even if you are an NGO, you are fundraising. Revenue is coming in somehow. That is a function on its own. If you're an IT firm, obviously, delivering or creating products, that will be your operations. Somebody will take care of money, that will be your finances. So team building is all about ensuring that you have the right, that the body parts of the business are in existence. Otherwise, the body cannot function effectively. It's about how we bring together the different parts to work coherently to ensure that the team works in harmony. It's also about ensuring that you have an effective team, because whether we like it or not, unless your company is being run by robots, bots, you're going to have human beings. And if those human beings don't have good relationships, if there's no trust as the foundation, the business cannot succeed. No business, I keep saying it, business is a team sport. One person cannot run a business. There have to be people in key positions. If you did structure last week, you must have had, maybe you must have spoken about organizational structure. The organizational structure is what is required, the roles and responsibilities required to support the business to deliver on its mandates. If those positions are not filled, then the business will not deliver. So team building is about making sure that we hire on board, have the right people in place, and the people have the right relationships to make it thrive and, you know, work coherently to deliver, really. That's what team building focuses on.
Awesome. The first things I pick out is, you know, it's a body corporate, you know, and it's a body, because it's a body corporate, so you have the business is a body corporate, so it needs to be able to structure properly from the word go. That's what you're saying, and that's what I take out from, you know, we are here in the we're here trying to build startups. A lot of people are trying to build startups.
Yeah.
And then, you know, co-founding is like a word. There's been things like, we've heard of partnerships, right? Growing up, we heard about partnerships. And a lot of people were afraid, or rather there were experiences, people had experiences, and then as we grew up and got involved in tech and innovation, we started hearing things like co-founding. What exactly is the difference between co-founding and the partnerships that we knew when we were growing up?
They're very similar. I mean, to be honest, if in simple terms, there really isn't any difference. They're the same. They're very similar. That, you know, usually co-founders are present at the very start, or sometimes co-founders join at a later. But the important thing is that they are at the helm of affairs, and they are not, you know, I mean, they're seen as very important key people to the business. So, to be honest, I mean, people can come out in the technical terms. Someone can come from a very legal firm, but from an operational perspective, co-founders very much operate in the same way as partners. Because if you look at partners in law firms, consulting firms, they are heads of lines. You know, like if in a typical consulting firm, like if it's an accounting firm, you'd have a partner for tax, you have a partner, you know, if it's an HR firm, you'll have a partner for recruitment, maybe a partner for training. Those are like, you know, they are people at the helm of affairs. I mean, they are partners, they share profits, they take drawings from the company. I mean, well, maybe legally it can be seen as different in the sense of how they're paid, because they get drawings and then they share profit. Co-founders usually, they're at the very beginning, but the tech, they don't use partners as terms. That's not their language. They use co-founders. And, you know, you can't compare legal and audits and accounting firms. But the important thing is that it's more than one person, and they're working together to deliver the mandate of the firm. I think that's the most important thing. Yeah, but legally, obviously, the agreement for partners would be, there's a partnership agreement. With co-founders, there's also an agreement. It may or may not look like a partner agreement, but, you know, the important thing is that it's still people who are starting up that entity, and they're deciding on how they will be, you know, the relationship. There's a contract on their relationship, how they'll be, you know, how they will be paid, how, if anything should go wrong. Partners have the same type of agreement, and co-founders have the same type of, they have their own type of agreement. It's just more common in the tech space. We use the term co-founding in the tech space, but we don't usually use it in like consulting.
Sorry, I think my network is acting up, but I mean,
yeah,
we're fine. I was going to ask you, I said, from your experience, you've worked with a couple of startups and also grew up companies, right?
Yeah.
And a number of them were co-founders. You know, you've met some co-founders. Can you give us some examples of co-founders you've seen, and what you think made them successful? You know, okay, and I'm asking this from a point of view of chemistry, right?
Yeah, you know, the funny thing about it is that you know, the people I most admire, and I don't know, maybe I won't want to call their names because of, you know, I don't know whether it's privileged information or, you know, but trust is important. I've noticed there's this thing, like sometimes people, they're very wary about, you know, family businesses. They're very wary about, you know, sometimes people have, when you mention connections, you know, people just have this negative connotation. You know, however, like if you want to go, I see business as a marriage. I see recruitment, even recruiting your core staff. I see it like a marriage. Like, you know, if there's no chemistry, if there's no trust, now these people don't have to be like best of friends, but every time I've seen it work, I mean, there is like mutual respect and there is trust. Without trust, there's no relationship. And I think that goes for every relationship. You know, it's a very important relationship, honestly. I mean, the business relationship is a very important one. And I feel the best founders, when I have been studying businesses that have lasted the test of time recently. I've been working with a few businesses that, you know, are set to, I know, do well. And everything I always see is they work with people they trust. They either know these people, either they're school friends, or maybe they were introduced to someone, you know, they know or something. There's very few, honestly, have seen that they just recruited them like normally, like through the normal recruitment. I always see a very strong referral, you understand, or like a relationship that was not, they were not best friends, no, but they know each other, they respect each other's work, and, you know, they not necessarily buddy, no, not like that, but mutual respect is there and trust.
Okay, so you touched on a great point, which is the fact that co-founders are usually people that know themselves from, you know, somewhere. From my own experience, I've discovered that from my experience of studying people who have succeeded, I've discovered that a lot of them are people who either went to the same school or their parents, they were family friends and they lived in the same neighborhood, you know, and they lived in the same neighborhood and they grew up. But if even in all of you know, you can see that there are people who have different complementing skills, right?
Yeah.
But even minus all of that, the fact that they are friends and them, you know, they have different complementary skills. I don't know. Have you looked? I don't know if you've seen the example. The example that comes to mind easily would be the example of Tayo Adenroko and what's his name now? For GT Bank.
Yeah.
Adeola, Fola Adeola.
Fola Adeola, yeah.
You know their story. You've read their story, right?
Yeah.
You know, so I think that, well, I don't know. You know, this is a conversation. So I don't know.
Yes, it is. Yeah, go ahead.
Question would be, are there examples of people that you know who also started like that, friends, but it didn't work out?
I can tell you. I could tell. I don't want to say I've had personal experience myself. It happens. That's the truth. I mean, we've all had that experience. It doesn't always work out. And, you know, just like, I don't know, I keep using this example. It's like sometimes you even fall out and you come back together again. That's the truth. You know, so it's not all honky-dory. And even the Fola Adeolas and Tayos of this world, you'll be surprised that it wasn't all honky-dory. They may have had some trying times where they maybe it just wasn't known. It looked like, you know, the relationship was threatened, but they were able to come back. Because it's a relationship, and a relationship can go through strain. So yes, I mean, it doesn't mean you will not have a hard time. It doesn't always work, and that's why some people, once bitten, I know quite a few people who have done partnerships and, you know, it failed and they're no longer together. But it's just like marriage. People get divorced if you have underlying or fundamental differences. But just like you said, it's not just them. I see a lot. I mean, this week I was in a conversation with a founder, and it was the same issue. He's trying to form his team, and it's difficult. It's really, really difficult. I mean, he has people currently working with him, but he says, you know what, we're not on the same level. These people are looking up to me. I'm really looking for my co-founders. And I had to tell him, look, think of everyone you've been to school with. Think of anyone you trust. Think, because I'm like, you can, and of course you can go through the normal recruitment process and get someone hired for you. But honestly, I mean, trust is not something that comes overnight. And because trust is one of the biggest factors, I mean, sometimes you're lucky. I mean, you probably watch that show, Married at First Sight. Well, some people are lucky. They can just see someone, marry them at first sight, and it works. But what are the chances of it working? What are the chances? So, I mean, if you know people, and sometimes I also think when I know good people, I like to match them, because honestly, good people are not easy to find. So whenever I have like friends, I always say, you must meet this person, you must meet. I just want all the good people to meet each other. I always have that, like, I want to match them, because I'm like, once I know this person, I'm like, you need to meet this guy, you need to meet, because I know that at the end of the day, all of us are looking for help. And if we find people to help us on our mission, that's the best thing you can do. I remember like about 2-3 months ago, I introduced a friend of mine who is a founder of a tech company to another person who was looking for an opportunity to be a CTO. And, it just so happened that when I made the introduction, when they saw he had the CTO that he was looking, he had just received an offer and accepted an offer from another firm. And my friend was like, and he was like, and when I said, okay, I asked him, how was the meeting? He said it was love at first sight. That's the way he described it. And I was like, he said, we hit it off. He said, don't worry, I'm waiting for him. As soon as he drops, he says, I'm waiting for him, and I'll keep checking on him for whenever, So the guy, my other friend, he's taking on the role. And, this, my other friend, keeps calling him, checking on him. How is it going? I'm still here. Oh, I'm still here. It's like, whenever you're ready to leave, let's do it. It's not easy, Uche. Uche is tough. So when you find people that you hit like that, and it doesn't matter what other people think. That's one thing I've noticed as well, because I had a situation, where, sometimes I feel something good about someone, and then when I bring them in front of other people, they don't see what I see. And so I think it's also all about you. It's not necessarily about what ticks the boxes, for other people. Chemistry is, I don't know how to, for those who have fallen in love, they know what chemistry is. So I think it's funny, but I couldn't think of any other way to describe, like, it's a very important relationship. So
no, you're absolutely right. It is. Business, if you're going to build something, like you said, trust is important, but aside from people, the skills that the people have, it's also important that you are working with somebody that you feel at home with, because there will be times when you need to tell somebody. There's a time when there are things that you can only talk to somebody about. I mean, in this journey, you will need to talk to somebody. Guys, as so it's important that you can talk to the person, So looking for somebody that complements, you. Just like in marriage, for instance, you're looking for somebody that complements you. In co-founding, you're also looking for people that complement you. I was going to ask that there are questions already pouring in. Guys, keep pouring in the questions. I'm going to take the questions, okay? We're going to answer the questions. We're going to take those questions. But I was going to ask, it comes to me like there are different types of, how do I even say this? Okay, you know what? Let me take the questions. I'm frame this other question better and come back to it. Okay. So Joel is asking, Joel is asking, okay, he's saying, co-founding relationship with someone who you feel there's a level of trust. How do we structure the agreement or document in a way that can sustain the relationship? I mean,
yeah, you know,
and
that's...
Is there any legal thing you can do to sustain relationship? In fact,
yeah, of course. I mean, you definitely have to have, just like a prenup. You know, the truth is that the agreements are very important. You can't go into any kind of relationship without an agreement. You know, whether you trust the person or not. Otherwise, if it doesn't go well, it becomes very messy. And you know, that is terrible. I mean, I've heard some really, really messy cases, and you don't want to be on that level. Of course, you must have an agreement. I mean, I'm right now I'm consulting for a startup company, and it's made up of several co-founders, and you know, we have the agreements for everyone. So there is agreements. You have to have a legal agreement, because you see, another thing that people don't understand is that when you did this on structure, okay? If you're starting a business, right? Especially, of course, you've gone to get your pre-seed or your funding, just like they do in the tech. You're an employee of the company. You're going to have an employment contract. You understand? The board, I mean, this is assuming, I don't know what you guys did on structure, but I'm assuming, of course, you have a board. So if you have a board, your salary is going to be set. You're an employee. You understand? You are. That's how it's going to be. Unless obviously maybe, in fact, there's no other way, because if you start properly, then you're going to make sure that it's a corporate entity and everyone working for it is an employee. So you have a contract and your co-founder will have a contract. Now, what will be in your contract that is not in a normal employee's contract would be your stock options or your share options, you know, however you want to call it, the vesting period as well. If for example, shares are allotted to you, or shares have been allotted to the co-founder, it would basically specify the amount of shares and how it is earned. You understand? Because some contracts would give you on, I mean, you will have shares at the very beginning, and some you gain it based on certain performance criteria. So your employee, the contract, your contract will have the, how much shares you get, at what periods you get them, and the vesting period, in the sense like at what are the conditions for you to now own those shares, because they might not be yours from day one. You may have to, your agreement may say you need to be in this organization or this entity for 5 years before it becomes yours. So you get it, but you don't really get it. It's like a phantom, you don't get it until the vesting period is over. So all those differences, and you see there is no one style. It's different for different parts of your position. How much you get in terms of shares also is, for me, once you agree. And then, of course, it depends on, there are different kinds of shareholders. Did you actually invest in the company? One of the companies I'm working with now, they actually put down money, real money, like the founder, the main founder, actually, there is money that he invested in it. That's different from people who are coming with sweat equity, and it's a different ballgame than somebody who says, this is, so he is the investor. You understand? One of the founders, so it's like is the investor. So it's the sharing formula, so to speak, between, I mean, he gets it's all his money, 100% is his money. That's a very different arrangement.
Adora, let me come in here.
Okay.
So let me come in and say, I'm going to ask you, just keep this, I'm going to ask you what you thought, or an example of the sharing formula for that sort of, to give me an idea of the sharing formula for that sort of scenario that you've just explained, right? But let me just say that for that question, I feel that, and you're correct, agreement is important, but I also think that agreement can't sustain a relationship.
No.
Because you need agreement. You need agreement to be in place. In fact, let me give you one of the startups in the community that we were consulting for. I and a barrister friend were trying to do something for, and it was supposed to be a due diligence preparatory for getting money, and the lawyer says, let me see your legal, let me see the agreement with your employees. The guy said, no, I can't show you, right? I mean, it's part of the structures we discussed this last week as part of the structure. You know, in my experience investing in companies through the Angel Network, right? You would have to show us the agreement you have with your employees. We want to see your co-founder agreement. We want to see the employment agreement you signed with the employees, because if we're going to put money in the business, right, we don't want somebody to wake up one day and say, you know what, I own this IP.
Exactly.
Right? I own this IP. I built it. We didn't agree that I'm going to give it the IP. We want to see so that we can discuss all the legal implications and decide whether we want to go ahead or not. So first and foremost, everybody, which is part of what we discussed last first and foremost, everybody, the IP of the company, every IP in the organization is transferred to the organization, right? Yeah. So you want to make sure that when you're writing your employment letter, or the agreements with it, you want to make sure that you highlight those. The people working for you don't own what you generate. Otherwise, you will not be able to raise money, right? So
definitely.
But agreements are important. But where I'm actually going is that it's important that you work with people you trust. You work with people
definitely.
you can build trust. You know, from beginning. That's basically what it is. That the point I wanted to make. So I'm going to ask
fantastic.
you. I'm going to ask you. Can you give us the scenarios where of how that kind of sharing formula has occurred? You know, where the founder is investor. You know, the founder is an investor and also contributing sweat equity, and then has co-founders. How did
okay. Okay, so like I said, there are different cases. Like I mean, I can give you, there's one example I can give you where the person started 100% bootstrapped and then got a co-founder. And, you know, the truth is that sometimes, I mean, I don't know, the important thing is that there's an agreement. Somehow the co-founder agreed and to a 7.5% equity. That was, you know, that's one scenario. However, this particular scenario I'm talking to you about is a key founder who is also the investor. And then the co-founders are people who were already running their own businesses, okay? And so this now new vehicle is going to have everybody now bringing in their businesses to this new businesses. But when I say they are running their own businesses, they're not running anything like massive. They're like bootstrap self-employed people. They were just working. They were not. They were exactly freelancers, and they were at different levels. Now they're different styles. Of course, you could do a proper. In this case, and I'm just giving you an example. In this case, the due diligence was not as formal. But I've had another case with this same investor in which the due diligence was, they brought in auditors and the books were in such a mess that they had to pull out of the, you know, they just couldn't go ahead because the books were just, you know, like too many, like conflict of interest, you know, this person owned this and that didn't work. But in this case, the due diligence it's not a formal acquisition, but the conversation is really around acquiring those people's freelance type of business. And, you know, we just found out, well, how much everyone was making in their organizations as individuals. And we accorded them shares in that way. There was someone, initially we wanted to offer them a percentage. And you know, should I talk percentages here, or should I don't know how much I should.
No, go ahead. Just feel free.
Yes, okay. So now, like I said, it depends on the sum. So the sum, and I'll use, for the sake of example, I'm going to use 100 million, okay? So 100, because 100 million is easy to make 100%. So we kind of did a rough and dirty evaluation of each of the companies, and they were offered an initial 2.5%. Now, the important thing is the people accepting. You know, the truth, there is no formula. They were also offered the opportunity to increase their investment over a period of maybe up to 5 years. It could go up by 1% every year. Now, you see, what you are selling, first of all, it depends on the size of the initial investment. Now, 2.5% of 10 million is not the same as 2.5% of 100 million, not the same as 2.5% of 300 million. So that mattered, but we had to negotiate and agree with the co-founders of what would be like a handshake, like, you know, you're going to start with this. In this case, it was a 2.5%, and there was a period in which it increased up until the max was 5% for this particular agreement. Now, you know, so, but it's different. Some two co-founders come together and, you know, it's very different.
Yeah,
but it depends on
because I was going to you know, provide some context for Joel, because I know him, and I think I know where some of this question is coming from.
Yes.
You know, so typically, I may not be calling someone who has 2.5% a co-founder, right? From a co-founder basically will be somebody who has a level of equity in the business that he cannot afford to let the business fail, right? And for that could be, for me, it's a minimum of 15%, right? A minimum of 15%. It can be as high as 20, 25, 30%. Now, basically, it depends on what you are bringing to the table, what you're contributing.
Exactly.
So in the type of scenario you've painted, if you were, depending on how much is on the table, right?
Exactly.
If I am investing money into the business, and I'm also going to be part of the business, which means I'm also contributing sweat equity. I will want to, there are two things I want to do. First and foremost, why am I bringing these people in as co-founders, right? What do they have that I can't get somebody and pay the person money to do it for me, right?
Exactly.
If I'm going to bring someone in as co-founder, it means that the person has something very tangible that even if I hired somebody and paid the person a monthly salary, the person can give me the same value, right?
Yes.
Now, which means that 2.5% may not be a good value to pay for that person's time. Do you understand? Because for 2.5%, now where you do 2.5% is the case you're discussing is basically acquisition, acqui-hiring. We call it acqui-hire because you're hiring them, you're taking over, assuming they had products, for instance, you're taking over their products, and you want them to continue to work on their product, but as part of your company. So you're more or less paying them off for the business, but asking them to remain in the business and to, in order for you to retain their
intellectual property as well,
their interest in the thing to still make it continue to work. You're offering them stock option. You're offering them stocks. So that's the case you've just explained.
Acqui-hiring.
So Joel, if you are starting a business and you are going to do, basically, if you're going to get a co-founder should be like, at the minimum, should be for a startup, should be like 25%. If you, depending on how many you are, the way it goes, when I advise new startups would basically to say, you know what, whose idea is this? who is going to work on it, who is responsible for making it work, who is going to take the major responsibility if this thing fails, right? Right. So, but who is going to put in a lot of work, for this thing to work? Now, when you put all of these things on the table, then you begin to apportion value to them. So if it's my idea and I don't know how to do the thing itself, right? And I'm bringing someone else who knows how to do the thing, it means I'm depending on that person to get the thing off the ground, right? Mm-hmm. So the idea in itself is worth nothing. What is worth everything is the execution of the idea.
Execution, yes.
The execution of the idea. So that I have an idea that I cannot bring to the table, life. And I have somebody who, so the worst that can happen is to say, hey, you know what? Come and help me achieve this thing. In doing this, I'm going to play this role. You are going to play this role, but at that stage, I can actually give you 45%. I don't mind. You can take 45% of it. But you know what? That I can do the work is also not everything.
No.
I may not know how to do that particular work, but I know how to do some other things. I may even have some contacts that will help us raise money. Mm-hmm. And raising money is very important. So all of those things are the factors you have to bring to the table, and then ask yourself, based on these things, how much do I want to give up in order to make this person comfortable enough to work on this thing with me, right? And that's after you've settled those other issues about trust and all of that thing. Joel, I don't know if we answered your question, but I think we provided more than enough context for this. So there's no straight answer to what you give to co-founders. There's no straight answer. So you just have to put things on the table, put things and put value on them. And then, like Adora said, it's whether they accept.
And value matters a lot. The value matters a lot. And the valuation matters a lot. So I think every situation is different. And, just like if somebody accepts, that to be honest is the most important, is what people accept, because sometimes people struggle with that. But what can people accept? If it's accepted, then it becomes an agreement. If it's not accepted, then it's a disagreement. And that's why we must have agreements in place, and people can change their minds as well. Trust me, I've seen that one happen. People do change their minds, even when they're agreements. Yes. In fact, that's what causes problems, because when people, after a while, they look at it and they say, I don't think this is fair.
So which is where vesting comes in. Mm-hmm. So for those of us, for the sake of those of us that don't know, I don't know what is vesting.
Uche, I should be asking you. Okay, so yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so
what's your space? Yeah. So
yeah. No, I mean it's really about a period in time in which something becomes, you can get the value out of, whether it's stock or shares that you've actually been given, or you've been assigned. I'll call it assignment because it's not yours until the vesting period. So there's a vesting period. So if, for example, just like the example we were given, if it's a 4-year vesting period, then of course you assign the shares, but you cannot own the shares, till that 4 years period. And then, they can make vesting share schedules can also be complicated or simple. They can, they can be, some of them are not as straightforward. But the bottom line is that usually before the vesting period, if any party pulls out, or if you pull out, then you basically forfeit those. So it's a period in which it's to help, because obviously you don't want somebody just coming in and then 2 weeks later they're gone. It's also, I would see it also as a retention, just like, it's like a retention strategy, a reward strategy. I'm rewarding you for obviously staying the you know, staying the long haul and being there for a period. And because you can't come 1 year and all of a sudden you've taken 15, 20% of the company, that would be terrible. So yeah, so it's a reward strategy, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Joel also asked another question, and he's saying, what's the content of a co-founder agreement?
Just like you mentioned, like I said, you know, it would definitely have it would definitely have vesting periods, vesting schedules. It will definitely have the IP, if obviously you have to be very clear on IP and copyrights, intellectual property, who owns those. While, you know, if you don't put those kind of things, that means that somebody can disappear with everything they created. But usually you have to have sections on that showing that especially in the field of IT, of technology, that whatever is produced during that period is owned by, you know, the entity. So it would have details on how like every agreement should have termination, how to leave, and what happens to the shares that have been, you know, that have not been vested or been vested. You know, you have to basically the start time. It's like in any other contract, and you just have to make sure that you have, you know, the key, how the person is remunerated as well. I mean, those are very important. It's just like any other contract.
Okay.
You should have everything that is very important to that relationship should be there. But like awesome. I said, what is very important is all.
So there's no a one size fits all document. It has to be peculiar to the situation.
But at least certain things are always there, you know, like how much has been allotted to you, the vesting period, IP, how to exit. If you, you know, what happens to the shares that you've been assigned if you exit. You must have a clause on how to terminate any relationship. Every relationship is terminatable. What happens? Who has the rights of first refusal? What can you do with the, you know, with the shares? Or, you know, do you have to sell it back to the company? Those kind of things, because you don't want someone who has just spent 1 year or 2 years, even people who are leaving after the vesting period. I mean, there could be clauses about what happens and how what should happen to the shares, and you know who has the rights to buy it or things like that. Very important, actually.
Okay,
very
moving away. Thank you, Adora. Moving away, Joy says, thank you, Adora. This is really illuminating. You know,
thank you.
Now moving away from, you know, co-founding startup, a number of the startups are becoming grow-ups, right? And they've moved away from trying to find co-founders. So now they are looking for advance money, and so they need to hire the team that reflects where they're heading to. You know, I've seen companies and I've seen cultures. How do you build a culture? You know, how do you build a culture that allows you to hire people, you know, that are not necessarily like you, but shares the same value and then the same vibes and energy? Because I think that those are very, very key for businesses, for team members to share the same level of energy and vibe. How do you advise startups to go about building such, you know, team culture?
You know, whether you like it or not, at least there's nothing I've learned. Leadership drives culture. It's all about the founder. It's all about who is at the helm of affairs. I mean, I've worked under different types of leaders. You know, I've worked under different CEOs. I work with CEOs as consultants. And honestly, the best CEO I've seen, people trust them. Honestly, this trust, we just make it sound like it's nothing. It's so big. You know how people can trust you. You know, trust, you have to build a culture of trust. People have to be able to be open. It's the leader. The long and short of it is that some people have leadership, some people have the would I say, some people, you know, when we say are leaders born or made, some people are gifted in that area, but everyone has the ability to learn leadership. You know, some people get better and better, and then you are refined as a leader. Some people have it more naturally, right? Okay, but the truth is that majority of people learn as they go. The best leaders I've seen are able to endear people to them, like get people to trust them. So it's a leadership thing. It's all about you who is driving it. The culture you build is a reflection of you. If you don't like what you see, you have to look at yourself. It's not, there's nothing like, I don't know why they're like this. It's a reflection of you. Yeah, I understand. But one thing I would say, so when people complain and, you know, the truth is that is you. You have to fix you. Because I've seen some people get it right and I've seen people fail, you know, and we've all grown. And, you know, I've made lots of, you know, mistakes. Sometimes some of us are even in the wrong roles. You know, sometimes the why it's not working for you is that you're in the wrong role in your firm. You understand? So the truth is that it's leadership that drives culture. It is the leader that is going to determine the atmosphere and the climate in that organization. And whatever you see reflected. And some leaders are so good at picking their teams. And not only do they pick them, once they pick them, they gain their trust. That is that's a quality of that leader. And so I think some of the best things we can all do as, you know, founders or people in business is to get mentors. Anyone you admire. Some people are doing a good job. Just try and emulate them. I mean, you can't copy someone. That's one thing I always say as well. You need to find your own uniqueness, but also don't think that you have to be in that role. Some people are in the wrong role. Find the right role that suits you in your company. You may be in the wrong role. But leadership is something that, it's not something that, oh, if you think you're failing, you just stop. No, we all get better and better. Yeah, but if that's why we need complementary teams. Some people, you know, will help us, but we can't be, some people do a better job. Let me just be honest. In my own experience, we can't, some people just are just naturally gifted and they're just, their persona just endears people to them. We can't all be like that, but we can all be better leaders than we were born.
Okay, Adora, awesome. Let me just ask you. Okay, before I ask this question, can I please ask everyone on this? Can I ask everyone to please share the link and just let me know, Don, on the comments. Just share the link so that we can have a lot more. You know, let's try and extract more value from Adora. You don't get to see her every time. So you don't get to see her every time. So let's share the link and get more people and extract more value from her. At least we're not paying for this. The next one she will come. The next one she will come. We'll probably be paying for it. So better take all you can take now. But let's not do it alone. So share it now and let's have more people join the session and let's extract as much as we can from her. She's agreed to give us today, so let's just do. let us maximize it. Okay. Now, Adora, I want to ask, leadership team. You know, startups get to a point, and the team they had can no longer drive them.
Yeah.
You know, can no longer drive and sustain the growth. You know, where they are going to, right? What are some of the tips you can give to those kind of startups in order to hire, you know, highly experienced people to come in? Because bearing in mind that a lot of them cannot pay for high experience, high level, that sort of high level of experience. And yet they need those high level experience to move forward, including assessing funding, right? There's a type of funding you can't get, you know, if you cannot show that, you know, you have the right high level team to drive it. So how would you advise these people to go about it?
Yeah, you know, and this is the dilemma because like I said, and that's why in a way that's why I admire the tech industry. now for doing things differently. The truth is that if I had to go back, like I said, if I knew what I knew now, I definitely would have done things differently. I would try, I would have tried to get people on board earlier. You see, every founder has a vision. You need to find your missionaries. It's otherwise, you see, this bootstrapping thing solo is tough. It's very tough. Everyone who has tried it knows that is one of the most difficult things to do. That is not, I've come to realize and I've come to believe that that is not it's not the structure. Every business book will tell you that is not the structure for business. Business has a structure, just like family. Like, well, if you're a traditional person, family has mother, father, children. If there's father, no mother, that's traditionalist. So please, oh, no one should quote me. But if you're a traditional person, if there's father, no mother, and children, something is missing. If there's mother, no father, and children, So there is, for traditional businesses, yes. And, there is a structure. And if you don't have people in key positions, structure is people. Don't let anyone deceive you. It's not the organogram that you draw. Until you implement it and have people in those positions, you have no structure. So when people say your business is not structured, it doesn't mean you don't have an organogram. You have an organizational structure. You can open your file and show them the structure, but you have not hired anyone in those positions. So you don't have a structure because you're doing it yourself, or somebody who has 2 years experience is doing the work of the CFO. Somebody who has 1 year experience is an intern, is doing the job of the chief marketing officer. If you don't have those people in those positions, your firm will, the truth is our businesses will never grow beyond us. Now, what do you advise? This is where I come to the tech industry. That's why funding is very important. And that's why I love what the tech space is doing. And that's why they go and seek funding, pre-seed from the very beginning. If you don't get go and borrow. For me, I'm sorry, now I am so biased about you need a certain amount of money to start. Otherwise, you're just going to struggle and struggle. And the truth is that if you can't, of course, there's nothing you can do. But if you can, please get that funding so that you can start. And if you don't have any money, please, you need to be able to speak. You're a leader. Find followers. Find people who will follow you with nothing. It's just like how you're proposing to a woman or someone to marry you, and you say, believe in me, I will get there. You have to find your people. Find your disciples, honestly. And that's where I think that, now younger and younger people are forming businesses. If you come out of school, you find you and your friends come together there and then if you can. And I think that's what people are doing now, unlike people who are older, like myself, who most of my colleagues and my contemporaries, they are still working. They still have jobs and they still have this fear of business. But that's not with the people now. So I think it's easier for younger people now. It's harder for someone in my generation because, like I said, my contemporaries still looking for people my age is very hard. Because all the best people I work with, they're not going to leave their jobs. It's harder for people because they're not ready to leave. They're directors in companies. They are afraid of having no salary. But you see, we still have to preach to some people. So just like you beg someone to believe in you and marry you, I think sometimes we just have to literally, if we find good people, we need to beg them to come with us. I don't know. I mean, I might sound like, but it's a serious matter. Because it's a very, very, because when you don't get those people, you can't move, you can't do anything. So what are you going to do? You have to, and that's why there's this thing I believe in now. The people who are like you, hopefully keep doing your thing. And you will also attract, when you're out there, you put yourself out there, you will attract people who like what you're doing and they will come to you. Some of the best people, in fact, the best people I've had work with me over the years, they've approached me. Like, I've not really had success. And this is me being very honest. When I've done the normal way, I've had less success. And not to say it doesn't work. The best staff I've ever had, the best people have come to me and literally say, I want to work with you. That is what, honestly, so I don't know how it's going to be for everybody. Of course, it's not like that for everybody, but it's not an easy thing, Uche.
Yeah. So what I tell people is, a few points I give to people is I tell them, the best time to start planning for your future is yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you can do it now.
When you were starting, you were looking forward to when you can grow to a particular particular stage. It would make a lot of sense for you to go back, for you to start thinking about the type of people you will need for that stage. That if it is possible, identify them, identify where they're working, right? And become acquainted with them, okay? Make yourself known to them so that when you eventually need them, okay, it will be easier to have a conversation. Now, truth is, in case you didn't hear what I said when I started this question, there is a level of growth that you cannot attain with the type of team you were starting with. You will get to a point where you would need experience, real experience. Like one of the guys I work with, or one of the guys I advise and I mentor, raised money recently, and he's trying to now raise another round. And he sent me his deck, and I said to him, and he says, we have a great team. He wrote in the deck, we have a great team. And I looked at the deck and I said, bro, you don't have a great team. For the money you want to go and raise, and she didn't add in the deck that he's looking for money to be able to hire a better team. And I said, bro, you should include that part of the money you want to raise now so that I can hire a better team. Because the truth is, the team you currently have, nobody's going to give you the type of money you're trying to raise, you know?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to give you the type of money you're trying to raise with this team that I'm seeing on this deck. It's not advisory. We're not talking about advisory roles, advisory boards. No, that's not what we're talking. We're talking about experience. If you tell me that you're a manufacturer, right? And you're coming to me to raise money, I want to know if there's somebody who has run a manufacturing system on your team before. It is okay to as a startup, to not have that. And you can raise your seed and maybe pre-seed and seed. But the moment you're looking to raise things like Series A or whatever series beyond seed, bro, you have to go and get somebody who has like 15 years or 20 years experience. That is why some companies go and pull people. Some companies go and pull people that have retired out of retirement and put them on their team. Sometimes all they are doing is to use their experience to just get clearance. Do you understand?
Yeah.
That's all they are doing. So you need to begin to, like we said, you need to think about where you're going to, think about what you need, where you're going to, and begin to arrange, begin to strategize how to get it. So if there are people you know that you're going to need an operations person who has run a plant before, please identify them and start making them friends. If you have 3 or 4 of them and you're talking to them, truth is, at the right, it may not be the same amount the person was earning from his last place before he left. But if you offer him something convenient that takes care of his, because some of them have left the job, they already have some stuff in their retirement plan, right? Right now, they're just looking for money that they can, money that can help them pay their daily bills, basically. They have money in retirement accounts, right? Now, and if you offer them a good enough salary and offer them stock options, right? That's where ESOP comes in. Offer them stock options. So when you're structuring your business, as you're doing the co-founder thing and everything, make sure that you're setting aside some stocks that you would use to attract the right type, that type of team. That's why I said you begin to plan for tomorrow today. The right type of team you would need to keep aside some stocks so that you would use those stocks. Sometimes it's not 1%. You know, 1% will even be too much. Sometimes it's 0.3%, 0.5%, but 0.3% would sometimes be like 100,000 shares or 200,000 shares or even 500,000 shares. But I think that the most important thing is the vision. The most important thing is the vision that is driving the company. If you can paint that vision as big enough to attract me, then you are not doing a good work, right?
Yeah.
So you need to pay attention to it. I don't know if you have some
Yeah,
things.
I mean, I agree with you. Like I said, it's I really admire people who are like starting now, because there's so much more clarity around these things, unlike people who are a little older like me. Now I feel so old. Sometimes I just wish I could just be 20 something or 30 something again, because it's just like it's a different era. Yeah, so that maybe when we were leaving school, we'll just plan and, we'll just start. Honestly, for people who are just starting now, this is like the best time to start. Not when you're starting with a generation who, I'm a Generation X, so it's not like we're too bad. But the truth is that we're still very work focused. And, most of my generation are still working. There are not many entrepreneurs. So it's more difficult trying to convince people who just can't see that risk taking, So I would say that keep doing what you're doing, but you have to sell more. And the best people, like I say, in my own experience, Uche, they've just seen the consistency of what I've been doing over the years, and they come and be like, you know what? Also, you have to build a personal brand, like if you're older, or I don't know whether we're talking to, I don't know how the demography of the people we're talking to, but sometimes people watch you from a distance, wanting to see whether you will, because a lot of businesses fail. So I know that there's some people that maybe now, if I talk to them now, they will be like, you know what, this lady's serious. So I mean, she's done it for 11 years, but I can imagine in year 1, year 2, people are just waiting for you to see whether you'll be around next year, because it's not easy in Nigeria. So some people like, and so some people like, she's still around, you see, she's still around. So it's not easy, but I say you have to sell. And then when people see your conviction and then they key into, sometimes the best people for you find you. It's not always about you going to look for them. They also find you. And that's something that if people have to put yourself out there and then let people know you're looking as well. I think that's also something that, is worth it. Let people around you know that you're looking. And if you're like me, you like to connect people who you think will get on. So, so that's my advice.
You like to do matchmaking.
I like to do matchmaking.
Okay.
I would like. I'm always happy when people find, someone to help. I'm always happy, whatever kind of partner. And I've been known to match people quite well. I just know that you guys will get on well. So whether it's business, whether it's relationship, I'm always happy because I know how difficult it is to find someone, whether it's business or,
Okay. Okay. Adora, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. Let me just say to you guys, for those of you that I hope I'm still live. I hope you can still hear me.
I'm still seeing live anyway. Yeah.
Okay. Adora, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can, and I see yours. It still says it's streaming live.
Okay. Okay. I don't know.
I can hear you. Your frame is not moving. Your video is not moving, but yeah.
All right. Let me see. Okay, that's I think I've been knocked out.
Oh really? But I can see it says live here on Zoom. It says live. So are you sure?
I've been knocked out. Jesus.
You want to log back in?
Let me see.
It still says live here, so maybe it might be your internet because the Zoom is saying live. Are you watching the live stream? The live stream and it's not on.
Hello, sorry. Sorry, I got.
What is here is fine. I can see it. I just, yeah, I'm seeing us live stream now.
Let me just take off one.
Yeah, I think you've still been on. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've been hearing you.
Don't worry.
Your video has stopped, but you're on. I can still hear your voice, so I think you should just talk. Yeah.
Okay, I'm back now. Sorry, I don't know what happened. So guys, I just wanted to say we're actually done. I just wanted to say that Adora runs the biggest HR group on Facebook. I think it's one of the biggest HR group on Facebook. So Adora, what's the name of that group again? So that
it's HR Nigeria.
HR Nigeria. So for all your, if you want to be able to, learn more, you probably want to just join that group. Just join the group so that you can follow more. It's been an interesting conversation. It's that can continue. When it comes to team building, it's something that we can continue. We can go on and on and on and on, but we have to end. We have to stop tonight, and hopefully Adora would agree to come on another time, or maybe
anytime.
Maybe some of you have to pay for it next time. Maybe we'll just have like a master class. We'll just have like a master class and take only serious people that have problems to solve, so that we can get in depth. Get in depth into solving their problems. I mean, that's possibly what we're going to do next time.
Yeah.
Thank you, Laura. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Uche, and it's been a wonderful opportunity as always. Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Send me well to the executives in your house.
Yeah, they will hear. Thank you.
I saw you trying to tell them to wait.
No, I've sent them off upstairs. Don't worry. All right. Thank you.
Yes, bye.
Okay, take care. Bye.